Hey, all, we're back for another edition of Printing's Alive, the podcast where we talk about everything print, anywhere, anytime. Today, you know me, I'm blessed with another guest. Today we have the man of sales, the trainer, the guru. We've got oh no, Mr. Bill. That's if you watch Saturday Night Live. But we got Bill Farquharson here with us. How you doing, Bill?
I am well, thank you, Warren. What's up with you?
Oh, just living the dream, living the print world dream. Love it. It's great. So we got Bill on today because we're going to talk sales, and I'm hoping to ask him some questions to get some real answers. I'm coming at it as someone who used to employ a lot of salespeople, dealt with them. I had the good, I had the bad, and I had those I'd like to drag behind my car. But I'm sure Bill will be a little kinder than I am. So, Bill, just give us a little lowdown on what you're up to. You've got the vault. Tell us about the vault. I'll let you plug yourself because it's a great thing.
Yeah, Bill Farquharson. I'm a lifer. I'm a sales guy for 40 plus years. In fact, I was funny because I was thinking about this interview this morning, Warren, and you gave me just being you gave me a good idea of what to write for my next column. And it's something actually I want to talk to you about offline, which is basically how do you make it 40 years? And it's a lot of pivoting. It's a lot of yes, it's a lot of no. And I thought, wow, that's because you've got a great backstory. And I'd love to just kind of, think about as the finish line is upon me or within reach anyway. How do you get there? How do you make it 40 years in any industry? But yeah, I've bobbed and weaved, and I've been in sales since 1982. I've been in this industry, the graphic arts, since 1982. I've sold print, I've sold signage, I've sold packaging, I've sold labels, I've sold promotional products. Client says, "Do you sell this?" And I say, "Absolutely," and then go figure out a way to do it.
That you know what I'm going to. So just saying that just made me change up what I was going to ask and the way I was going to ask it. But okay, the DNA of a real print rep. What are the traits you see in top salespeople that amount to that no training could teach?
You can't teach personality. You can't. It's just there. But the thing is that I think one of the mistakes that people make, Warren, is that they think there's a personality type, and there isn't. If you're an introvert, you can sell very well because not everybody wants to hear from a Warren Werbitt, a Bill Farquharson. These, "Hey, how's it going? La 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 la," and everybody thinks, "Well, I'm not the sales type." Doesn't matter. So I think that's one of the be yourself. There's authenticity to it. That's the thing. I know some very successful sales reps who are completely different people when they hang up the phone, and you can't fake it. They've been successful, but there's that lack of authenticity. I think it's curiosity. It's not just there's a story behind the printed piece, and this is the part that I think a lot of people miss. They focus on speeds and feeds, and they focus on ink and toner on substrate. And it's just like, who cares? No one cares about that stuff. They care about their issues and their problems, and that's the fun stuff. So if I can get to know somebody and I can ask them good qualifying questions and be curious about their world, then I can come up with the right solution. And I tell you what, there's nothing more satisfying than that. So
I'm sitting here and I'm shaking and my face is covering my face, and because it's really nothing has changed, right? Like the customers always wanted what the customers wanted. And I remember back in the early days, my paper sales guys, every time they came to the office, they brought donuts as if they were like, it was the entry if you didn't have donuts, you couldn't get in the door.
Right.
Fast forward, who really needed any donuts? It wasn't good for anybody. But yeah, so we used to have some salespeople, and first of all, kindness and empathy is definitely a good trait, whether you're introverted or extroverted. That's what I've always found. Oh my God! So just when you go into a company, right, and you're dealing with a group of salespeople, do you know right away within the group who's going to make it and who's not going to make it?
I have a spidey sense after talking to somebody that, Malcolm Gladwell No, yeah, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, and he talks about thin slicing and getting a gut feeling about someone. So I can very quickly figure somebody out. It's part of being a sales coach. I can identify immediately the red flags and the green flags, and I can predict. It's like your kids, right? My daughters had a certain personality at 2 that they still have in their 30s. Well, salespeople have that as well. What you see at the beginning is what you're going to get. So yes, to a large extent, I can meet a sales team and go, yep, yep, nope, nope, nope. But my other belief and experience, Warren, has been that 50% of a sales team doesn't want to grow. They don't want anything to do with me. And I get it. And they're not rude, but that it's just bouncing off their ears, or they're going to tell you anything you want to hear just to go away. And that's 50%. And I think I'm being kind
So
here.
I've been biting my tongue because I wanted to say, you think 50 is a little high or a little low, right? Because my experience was, and it's unfortunate, but my experience was the ones who talked the most in the sales meetings are the ones who did the least, right? Every time. And I had an idea, and what I did back then is we'd have, I would pay some people to come in from different places to talk because you always need a different flavor, right? You can't grow within your own house all the time without going outside to see what's going on. And it was really always the same people who would sit there and talk the most. But then I started thinking, you know what? When you figure out the ones that don't want to grow or don't want to hear, you ask them, you advise them that they're not invited to the meeting. And they're not invited to the sales meeting simply because and they know that they don't want to be there and they're not listening and they're taking away from other people's time. And from that, 2 things happen. Either they step up because they don't want to be that person anymore and they learn to quickly jump on the wagon, or they take the option and choose not, but they're not really around much longer after that, right? It's you have no choice. Let me jump to the ownership side now. Why do so many owners keep so many people that shouldn't be there, that when they actually do the math, they would find out that it's costing them for them to be there versus the sales they think they have?
Oh boy, there's a lot of different scenarios here. It's not to say that the 50% who aren't interested in growing, it's not to say they're bad salespeople or they have no value. I mean, to the contrary, I think you thank them for coming to work. You don't spend money on guys like me to train them, but the costing of the money thing, costing you money. That's something you have to examine. I think a large part of the answer of that in general is laziness on the owner's part, because it takes work and it's the devil and there's not a line of quality salespeople out there. And if there is somebody who's looking for a job, they're looking for a job for a reason. They might come to you with baggage. So if you hire a new rep, it's a lot of work to find the right person, and then you got to stick around and you got to manage. And there's a 50% chance that they're not going to make it a year, and there's an 80% chance that they're not going to make it 2 years. That is where guys like me come in. So
Right.
I think we hang on to salespeople, the wrong salespeople, too long, strictly because it's less work than firing and replacing.
Yeah, which is which I think in the long run, from my experience, is it works to your favor if you go through the pain and you remove. Today, especially because you have more customer service people that could deal with clients, because there's less need today to actually see all the clients face to face all the time.
Yeah.
So even today, I chat with some people that have the same scenario of people that maybe shouldn't be there. And I'm not saying anybody's not a good person or anything. And out of the 50%, there's probably 50% that really should not be in the company, right? Because they suck time, they take resources and all that other stuff.
Well,
Um,
that's a different. Okay, so that's a different scenario. There's a book behind me, that one right in the middle, that black one. Yeah, no, it's not behind me.
Not all the white ones with the red on the
Oh,
bottom
this one right here.
that look like the one that
You get the
I have
slinky out of
over
the way.
here.
No, not that one. No, this one.
You got 6 of them there.
It's called Integrity.
Yeah.
And Integrity is by Henry Cloud. And he gives a great analogy. He says, we're all the captains of our own motorboat, and the people behind us are either water skiing or they're drowning. And he tells a story about a VP of sales who was just a complete jerk, but he was a huge moneymaker. And so Henry Cloud gets brought in as a consultant and says, listen, this guy, I know he's making you money, but he's dragging everybody else down, and the entire performance of everyone else is down. And when they got rid of him, not only did they replace his income, but the quality of everybody's work came up.
Well, just quickly, what I've learned is, whenever a change happens, whether it's wanted or not wanted, there's always a little bit of pain, but it generally turns out better in the long run, right?
Yeah.
It's and I guess after all of us so many years, you think some people would just get the hang of it and realize that rather than go into the panic mode and the worry. Question: because you've seen so much and your experience is so vast, how would you define a good salesperson today versus what a salesperson was um, any time before the last 10 years?
I think a lot of the answer there, Warren, is dependent on the work that the company or the owner has done to prepare for the rep. All right, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I got hired in 1982. My job was to identify, get it in camera, identify the lead, qualify the lead, make contact with the lead, turn them in, get an appointment, design the job, estimate the job, enter the order, follow up on the order, and then collect the money. This was my job, keeping it in camera. This was my job. Okay. So now you need skills that are vast to do all those jobs. That was a sales rep that you were looking for in 1982. Today, you're not, if you find that person, I don't think you're going to find that person. If you find that person, he doesn't want to sell print. All right. So what you need to do as an owner or a company is you need to take care of the front end and the back end so that rep can live in the middle. The more time the sales rep can spend with face time with the client, the more money you're all going to make. So help them with qualified leads, not just here's a list. Qualified leads to the point where you've done the research and you know what the company does, because that's very time consuming. So it's not just call Warren Werbitt at this number, but here's Warren's company. Here's his URL. Here's what their problem is. Here's the research that we've done. Here you go, Tiger. Put the ball on the tee, hand the sales rep a club. And then on the back end, this is important. When the job is entered, that's the last time the sales rep touches it. Now the shop owns it. So that allows the sales rep to pick up the lead and then stop working at the sale and move on. And you compensate for that too. You overcompensate because you want that rep to bring in new business. And the sales rep, look at you. You are jumping out of your chair over there. I knew this would be a hard interview.
Do you know how much therapy I've had to be able to sit here and keep my mouth shut for like at minimum of 14 seconds? I have holes in my tongue from biting down.
There's 10 Canadian consulars today driving BMWs based on what you've paid them just to get this. Wow.
Oh, minimum. They might even be driving like Maseratis. But no, you know what? It's so like bang on, and it's so. I'm going to just jump because I guess another question I have is there's a lot of print owners that have been at it such a long time. I want to say to some of them, so like, what do you mean you need sales training? You don't know how to sell? I mean, thank God they don't, because you'd be out of a job and I'd be out of helping them. But the reality is, I'm amazed at what I see today when I talk to some people, right?
Yeah.
I'm amazed. You talked about setting the rep up right. How many companies do you go into where the company itself doesn't even know who they are, yet they want their team to go out and bring in business, but there's no tools, there's no proper messaging. The website is a press on the front. It's not about the customer, right?
You know why? I know why. Because the owner, the guy at the top, the woman at the top has never sold. There's two types, and I bet you run into this all the time. The person at the top has been in sales. They know the role. They know what it takes. They know how hard it is. They know what they need. They know they need marketing. They know they need support. They know that they need to walk in on a Friday and just say, you know what? Whatever you're going through right now is normal. Relax, take a breath. It's going to be better. Whereas the non-sales rep at the top looks and says, you better sell something or you're out of here. I talked to a guy at a conference recently, and he said, I've had 3 reps in a row and they haven't lasted 90 days. After 90 days, if they haven't shown me they can sell, then they're gone. What kind of an impact can a sales rep have in 90 days? And the guy says, Bill, what's wrong with these people? And I said, what's the common denominator?
Him.
Yes, him. Exactly. And I tell you, Warren, it's like, if Warren were here, he'd probably strangle you right now, dude.
No, I am doing.
You're not.
I am doing some anger management because this industry is really frustrating me. First of all, I think I'm one of the only people out there, promoting print, trying to work with print companies, that was a print owner of a very sizable shop, doing everything imaginable under the sun that most have never done. And I've lived the highs and the lows. And it's one industry where trying to share your experience to teach something is like you're begging them to listen to you a lot of the time. Like I can go into a place and look at something, and one little change could change a whole person's place. And I'm not saying I'm like the god of print, but I go into one place and the guy's got a large format printer on one side and he's got it on the other side of the room. And I'm saying, well, why isn't it, kitty in the corner where you get one operator playing with 2 things? And the worst part is he has a real reason that he thinks he's right.
Sure.
You know, it's crazy. What are the traits of a top salesperson today?
I think the ability to pivot, the ability to understand the customer. You talk about nothing's changed. This is 85-year-old theory I'm giving you. A guy by the name of Dale Carnegie wrote it in 1937, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said, you can get what you want when you figure out what the other guy wants and help him to get it. Well, here we are, years later, decades later, and you gonna pull out that book?
No, another one.
And here we are doing the exact same thing. What are the top salespeople doing? They're understanding that it's not about print. It's about the client's business needs, not their print needs, their business needs. Bill Farquharson is a sales trainer. He has a subscription-based website plug called the Sales Vault. What keeps Bill up at night is finding more people to subscribe to the Sales Vault. Solve that problem and you will earn my business at your price. So come ask me qualifying questions. Come learn about my business. Who's your target market? How do people find you? What marketing have you done? What's worked and what hasn't worked? Why do people buy from you? What's your differentiator? How do people stay there? What's your big challenge in 2025? And on and on and on. And the more talking I do and the more listening, which is another big skill that the top salespeople have, the more listening that the sales rep does, the better solution they're going to come up. And the fact that they're going to get it at their price. This is not a bid. This is selling a solution.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a little coaching book here that says, like, say less, ask more, and change the way you lead. And what's it all about? It's about asking the right questions and then zipping, right? And you let them talk. It's
don't you think that most business books can be summarized in 3 sentences? Because you just saved me hours from buying and reading that.
By the way, I just read the cover. I'm not going to read the inside. I know it all. I know it all.
Book? What?
Yeah. I know it all. No, but you know what? Most of the stuff that we see, that we read, that we teach, it is very basic and rudimentary, right? Be kind to people. Ask them what their problems are. Don't tell them how great you are, right? Salespeople. So let me oh my God, salespeople in LinkedIn.
Salespeople in LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah. So so I go around and it's very funny. I'm asked to go to a company and to go speak along with somebody else for the sales team. And I go on first I go to the company website first to look at it. And I'm not really happy with what I see because it's a me site. It's not about you, the client. Then I decide I'm going to go to look at all the salespeople's LinkedIn pages. And then I start off looking at 1 or 2, and I'm amazed that the salespeople do not have their company email address in there. They have a Gmail, makes me think they're looking for a job. They don't have a phone number. Their about is horribly written. There's nothing there. And I figure I'm going to call out one of the salespeople at the meeting. But by the time I get through all 30 of them, I got to call out all 30 because it's awful.
Yep.
So I go to the meeting and I'm standing there and I go, so you all have me here because you want to learn about sales. None of yous are ready. I don't think I want to talk to you. And the room's like quiet. And I go on and I go, what have you learned since COVID? I said, that's the time that LinkedIn came up. I said, as salespeople, what do you do when you have a prospective client? You go out, you look at the company website, you go to their LinkedIn profile, you want to see who they are, you want to try to pick out something that you could talk about, play on, something. I said, but guess what? You're never going to have that opportunity because when they go to your LinkedIn page, they think you're a non-worker. They think you're just a ghost for the company. Why don't they get it?
There's two things that I say all day long. One is marketing is the new sales. The other one is we live in an Amazon world. But the marketing is the new sales piece. This is one of the reasons why people aren't calling you back is exactly what you're talking about, Warren. Somebody's going to your LinkedIn profile and they're seeing a very poorly curated, just somebody who just said, yeah, I checked the box. I'm on LinkedIn. But there's no testimonials there. We live in an Amazon world. We don't buy anything without seeing 4 stars, 5 stars, testimonials. This is the greatest thing. You have to buy it. Holy cow, an air fryer, the Ninja ice cream maker. This thing is phenomenal. Didn't know you needed it. Now suddenly you read the review and you're like, wow, I have to buy this. That's what your LinkedIn profile should say about you. People are reading this. It's like picking up a book and flipping it over and you read all the things that people said about it. They, oh, pretty good book. What are people saying about you? You've got to pull in testimonials. You've got to kick out stories, case studies. This is what I've done for other people. This is what I do. You are building the brand. And this takes time. It's an investment, but you have to do it. Because if no one is returning your call, I promise you, it's not them. It's you. They don't like what they see, and they're just turning the page.
I mean, if there's salespeople that I hope are going to listen to this that are able to make it through the first 10 minutes, if you're not that good, there's a lot to learn here. But right. But the LinkedIn, I mean, with AI today, I've seen people's abouts and they say, I'm a leader.
Oh.
I do this, I do that, I do that. First of all, anybody out there, if you wrote, I'm a leader, you're a loser. Leaders don't write their leaders. Leaders lead because that's what they do. And then people just follow by example. And no one says anything. It just kind of like you go with it. But if you take what you have and you put it into AI and just prompt it to say, can you polish this up so that I'm someone who services my customers simply, if you don't know anything about AI, watch what happens. I've gone on to people's abouts I don't even know. And I've taken them and I've rewritten them. And I use that as my lead in when I send them a message. Hey, Jack. Hey, Sue. Just want to touch base and say hello. Came across your website or your LinkedIn page. And, I think I can help you with a few things. I just took a moment to rewrite this and look how it sounds. Let me know what you think. Some people get back to me going, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you. The majority do say nothing to me.
Sure.
Why? Losers or afraid.
I can't comment on that. Don't know why they would. Why would you not respond to Warren Werbitt? Damn it! What's wrong with you?
I wasn't even thinking of it that way. When you put it that way, you're 100% right. Right. The other thing is, as a salesperson, I'm a karma guy. In life, I'm a karma guy, right? What goes around comes around. How you treat others, they treat you back.
Sure.
As a sales guy, I take every phone call that comes my way. Even if it's to say to somebody, I'm not interested in what you're doing, I don't blow them off. I try to put out into the universe good stuff. And crazy enough, when you take some of those calls, sometimes good comes from it. Right? So just like attitude. I remember being in the car once with my sales manager and the phone rings in the car. This is when the early days of the phone, and guy says wrong number. And I say, wait. I said, once we're on the phone and we're killing time, I said, let me ask you a question. Any chance that you use any print? The guy is cracking up on the phone. He goes, I wish I did. I don't. He goes, I've never been solicited on a wrong call before. So we're laughing. We hang up. What do you think my sales manager says to me?
Why did you waste your time?
You don't expect me to do that, do you? And I just looked at him and I just shook my head because I'll tell you why I got into print. I got into print. I needed a job, but I got into print more because in print, as a professional sales guy, every single person you meet has some need for some form of print.
Sure.
If it's not a business card, it's a brochure. If it's not a brochure, it's a packaging. It's something to sell this product. It could be large format, a sticker, a label. And I don't know why more salespeople don't walk around thinking like that. I get into an elevator, the door closes, I turn around and it's a full elevator. I'm like, oh my God, I got an audience. Who needs print? Half the elevator thinks I'm an idiot, but the other half is who I'm concerned about because they're the ones thinking, oh my God, this guy has what it takes. I want to deal with somebody who's out there and wants to help others. So it just kind of leaves me, oh my Lord. Print owner question. When you hire a salesperson, regardless of where they're from, first of all, you'll probably agree with me. Anyone who tells you they're coming with a book of business is lying.
50% lying. Only one time in all my years have I seen someone bring the business they said they were going to bring. Once. Everybody else is off by 50%.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Because today, companies don't follow salespeople today, right?
Mm-hmm.
They invest too much money in the company, their work with the color, the process, and all the testing. That's my experience. But sales company owner wants to hire a salesperson. How long, assuming that he has tools and he has all the right stuff, how long should an owner be giving a salesperson to get up to par to hitting the full potential of the numbers he wants?
18 months.
Love that. I say 12 to 18. How many paddles or touches does it take for a salesperson to get somewhere with a client?
Oh, 8 to 10, 12, 15. Yeah.
I think the Sean McArdle days was 8 to 10, but
Wow.
Since COVID, I think it could be 12 to 15 because it's harder to
There's a
get
name
people.
from the past. Yikes.
Yeah, eh?
Wow.
He was a sharp little guy.
The only sales rep who ever sold $100 million worth of print 3 years in a row. And I'm thinking, dude, there's no way that's true, okay? Because you don't go from that life to this life without something happening in between. There's something wrong with that story.
No, like at least Bill Gillespie says he sold 100 million over his career.
Okay.
So that's a little bit,
So let me back up to that, okay?
Yeah.
18 months. I want to qualify that. You're looking, as an owner, you're asking the question, is my rep doing the job? It's a very difficult question to answer because let's say you walk by the rep's desk and the chair's empty. Where's the rep? The rep is out making calls, but the rep could also be hitting a bucket of balls. The rep could be at Krispy Kreme. You don't know. So the rep comes in and sits down and you walk by and say, what are you doing here? You can't sell anything here. But you need to know. This is why I tell salespeople, over communicate with your boss. Let them know what you're doing because unless you're putting jobs in, they don't know. So the first thing you have to look at as an owner is activity. And Warren, you just said this. What are the actions that the rep is taking? Because if they're making a high quality, well-researched sales call to the right target market, applying a process with diligence, they're going to succeed. Everything they do is measurable. So how many calls did you make? Who did you make the calls on? What did you say? These are all questions you can ask in a sales management meeting. Activities turn into opportunities. So the first question, is my rep doing the job? What are the activities that they're doing? Number two, what opportunities have those activities resulted in? So now I have an RFQ coming up in October. I got a client who told me to come see him in November. I've got this other opportunity. And now you know that there's business that's going to be had. So activities, opportunities, sales. That's where you have to look. And you're going to see this, and you're going to see a good month and then nothing. And you're going to, but you have to understand, this is not a 6 month, not a 9 month. This is not a 1 year. This is going to take time. You have to have financial patience. As long as those fundamentals are there, those basics are there, and you're seeing the activity, if you're doing those 4 things correctly as a sales rep, success is your only result.
I see so many people lose their patience. Not that they had patience to begin with, just as the salesperson is hitting 7 or 8 touches, just shy of getting to that point, and then
Yeah,
they just kind of like lose it and let them go,
sure.
right? The other thing is, I find that there's a lot of owners who don't offer up the proper tools that are needed to the salespeople to go out to promote what they do. What I used to like to do, I don't know if that's a sentence, but what I used to do is we used to produce a lot of good samples of what we did. And I would suggest to the people to go out and
Yeah.
go visit people, but don't ask them if they have something to quote. Don't talk about their jobs. Just talk about what we've done. Talk about wanting to show them what we've done. Talk about wanting to keep them in the loop of who we are. Talk about like Johnny Appleseed. You're just planting the seeds. We're a non-pressure company, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what they remember and that's what they see. When you start calling your customers every week asking if they have something to quote, you become an order taker. You're not a salesperson anymore.
There were two things that I used to bring out on sales calls. One was a pad of paper and a pen, right? The second thing was a book of samples, just like you're talking about, Warren. That they had acetate on 3-ring binder, and I had all kinds of samples. And I'd say, "Oh, let me tell you the story of this piece. Let me tell you the story of this piece. Let me tell you the story of this piece." And that's how I made sales. It wasn't about the speeds and feeds of the equipment. Okay, I want to build that brand that I'm going to solve the problem and earn the order.
Yeah, so you say speeds and feeds. I mean, those were the days when it was all about the equipment. When an agency would say to you, "Oh, if you don't have 240-inch presses, we can't use you
Sure.
because if one goes down, what do we do?" I mean, that was a pretty stupid thing back then, but we all bought into it. Today, customers don't care for the most part what you're running, right? Today, most of the equipment, if not all the equipment, produces nice work. So it's not about that even. So you can't even talk about that. You have to find out, like you say, what the solutions are and what the needs are. How many companies do you deal with that do say direct mail, but have never done direct mail for themselves on a regular basis?
Oh, that's the shoemaker whose kids have no shoes. That's very common. Salespeople, print salespeople talk about marketing, but they don't market. It's very frustrating.
So
So yeah, I think the overwhelming majority of people in whatever they're selling, they're very poor at marketing, which is, to meet a marketing person who's working at a print company is very rare.
when back in oh my god, I won't date myself, but back in 2007, I had an actual dedicated marketing person in the company
Yeah.
for 5 or 6 years or 7 years, and then we had someone outside. So what I recommend to all owners is that they do their own direct mail campaign. They do it for 12 months. The printing part of it is free because you can use paper left over. You can ask a supplier to assist you, but never ask your suppliers to do stuff for free. Ask for cost, so at least they cover theirs and they're not mad at you after. But you take it, you do a project, you hook up with a graphic artist or someone you're dealing with, an agency. They could do a 12-month messaging. If you do that and you pick 1,000 addresses within 3 miles of your operation, constantly mailing every month, you're going to pick up a ton of leads. Because most people, when they're ordering, like if they're ordering from Staples, that just tells me they have no idea about print to begin with, right? And then with all of that, you're now setting yourself up to assist your salespeople with leads that have come in on a regular basis, not far. If you're bringing new people in, you're giving them something to do right away. But for the 25 or 30 or 35 grand, if you want to go crazy for the 12 months, including your postage, it's half the price of having a rep the first year. So I suggest they do that and get it going and then bring somebody in and then feed your team. And like I asked the question because people aren't doing it and it's so simple.
Yeah.
And the best part of it is you then make your own case study with your own results from the money you've spent that you now get to talk to your customers about. Now you know about direct mail. Now you're giving the feedback, you're giving actual numbers.
One of the most effective and fun pieces I ever put together with a client was a job that it was a number 10 envelope, and on the outside it said "print is dead." And when you open it up, the label, the letter said, "And yet here you are reading this message." And it was very effective. This
I
proves that
like
print is
that.
not dead.
Because what
Your
you said,
inbox is filled, your mailbox is empty. Go where if everybody else goes left, go right. Be different. Use print.
I like that because when you said print is dead, I was about to jump on top of you because it's an immediate reaction I have with people, and then I beat them up, and then like maybe after I let them talk if they could still breathe, because print is really everywhere around. You know, um, do the owners that you deal with ever go with their reps to visit customers?
The smart ones do. Yeah. It's you want to own the relationship if you're the owner. If that sales rep leaves, who owns the relationship? That's why I think this new model I was talking about, where when the job gets entered, that's the last that the sales rep sees of it. This helps everyone. There's that. I'm not sure where the non-compete uh, contract issue is right now. I've done a lot of expert witness work on that, but it's always about the relationship. The sales rep owned the relationship, therefore the client went with the sales rep, and you want to go on those calls. And you'll hear things in that conversation that you can't get anywhere else. What's the biggest question we ask ourselves as owners? Where should I go in the future? Who has the answer? Your vendor? Nope. Trade show? Maybe. Probably nope. Your customer has the answer to that. So only by going to that meeting and saying, where are you going in the next year? That's how you know where to take your company. You want to get there first, set up shop and say, well, here we are. You said you wanted to do this. Now we can.
Yeah. So I had a different spin on it, but yours is absolutely correct. I was coming at it from I had salespeople, and I'd say to them, "Hey, can you make some appointments with your customers? I want to go with you. I want to say hello." And half of them would do it right away, and the other half would stall and
Hmm.
stall and stall. And I'd say to them, "I don't think you understand what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to make a call. If you don't make the call, I'm making the call, but you're not coming with me because I don't need to take you." And I said, by the way, I said, the customer is not yours, it's ours. We own the receivable, right? So just to let them know what the way it is. So I would go with them. And the first thing I would find out with the ones that didn't want me to go is they weren't selling all of our services. The customer didn't even know half the services that we were offering. Right. And
Yeah,
I would say to the customer, here's my card. Anything, give me a call. Jack, you're going to look at things a little differently now, and you're going to let them know what we're up to. Because as an owner, you get to say things to a customer that a salesperson can't. And they
sure.
hear things differently because you are the owner. Right. So that always worked well. And then the reps that would sign up and take me right away, it's because they understood that I added value to the conversation. They understand that the client was happy to know that the person servicing them is happy to bring the owner of the company because he wants them to meet, he wants them to see, and he wants, full disclosure or open doors. And it
Yep.
used to make me crazy because the owner could help that salesperson increase the sales. But more importantly, it's what you said. It's knowing the customer that you could pick up the phone after. And not only that, I would try and phone owners of companies that salespeople were at, just to
Yeah.
say owner to owner. And actually, inside of my business card and on the wall, it says owner to owner is a different kind of conversation.
Well,
So
I also think one of the best things you can find out, Warren, is why do you buy from us? Who are we in your eyes? You talked about AI. One of the coolest things I've ever seen AI do is Notebook LM. This is a Google product. It's free, and there's lots of uses for it. You can take a huge contract, you can load it in, and then you can ask questions like a big automobile contract. Am I covered when I rent a car?
right.
So I put in the URL of the Sales Vault, salesvault.pro, and I hit audio sample. And 3 minutes later, a 15-minute podcast came out between two people who don't exist, talking about my company and explaining it better than I can. And I'm listening to this thing on speaker, and my wife Allison, who's my web designer and partner in this, comes out of her office saying, "What are you listening to? Did you spend money on something?" It blew me away, but it gave me a sense of understanding who we are. This is how we are presenting ourselves. So you're having that conversation with a client saying, "Why do you buy from us?" And it probably is not why you think it is. That was huge. I've had that revelation over and over. The Sales Vault's been in existence now for 5 years. I thought it was live Zoom events that had a recorded backup. So it was content that was backing up the live. What I found was that 80% of the people in the vault are actually listening to the content in arrears. They're not showing up live, but they're consuming the content 4 to 5 times as many people who show up, listen to it afterward. So I just had to describe my company the exact opposite way. It took me a year to figure that out. And it was one of my daughters who said, "Dad, you should call up some clients. You're effectively running a startup." And she had me read a book called The Lean Startup. And she said, "Go figure out who you are in the eyes of the clients." And it was mind-blowing, as was the Notebook LM. I saw you reflect. Have you heard that thing or seen
Yeah,
it?
well, no. So I just came back from Imagine AI, an AI conference, which I'm a
Vegas.
founding member of.
Yeah.
And it was our third one, and 500 people were there. And actually, I was going to encourage everyone to go onto the website. You could actually join if you want all the content to see. And these were all the people that are creating stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then we had some wicked speakers from like Microsoft and Starbucks when they did the digital transformation and how they're using everything. And it's really amazing. There's Alex Northstar who teaches you how to save an hour or two out of your day just using AI, leaving it on the screen. And so you're a salesperson. Number one, if you're a salesperson, would you recommend that they spend the $20 to sign up for ChatGPT?
To the point where if you don't, you're an idiot. And that's the strongest language I'll use, Mr. F-bomb.
Good for you, because I had a whole other thing I was going to say.
I don't understand it. This is an investment. Now, listen, we are recording this 7 months after I started using AI. Okay. I'll be 65 this year. So you're talking to a legacy sales rep. I had been on ChatGPT twice. When my daughter Emma called me and said, "Dad,
Wake up."
she's an AI expert. She has her PhD from Cornell. She's wicked smart. And she has my personality and my knowledge of all things Monty Python. God
But
help
she's
her.
better looking.
She's a lot better. I tell you what, they all are.
They all are.
These are the girls. I don't know where they got the good looks, but it wasn't from me. So Emma,
check the postman.
There's Emma. So yeah, right. So Emma says, "Dad, I'm going to bring AI to your company." And I said, "Great," and she has, and it's been absolutely phenomenal what she's doing. But I still thought to myself, "It's not for me. It's not for me." Here we are 7 months later, and it's a part of my daily regimen. It's incredible. I as a writer, in my monthly column, I'm not having AI write it, but the ideas that I'm getting, because I'll say, "Ooh, this is a really good idea," and I'll throw it into ChatGPT, and it'll come up with some other ways to round out the story. I'm using it like the Notebook LM and some of the time management and the lead generation and the OMG applications that are mind-boggling, but it's an investment of time. This is something you have to chip away at. My column a few months ago, Warren, was called "The Tsunami of AI." And I said, there's drinking from a fire hose, and then there's AI. And AI, you have to stand on the beach, open your mouth, and you're going to get hit by a wave, and you're going to get knocked over, and you have to get up and open your mouth again and get knocked over again and again and again and again. And you have to keep getting up, because unless you are 64, 65 years old and the end is in sight for you, the finish line is in sight for you, AI is going to affect every part of your life. So why not learn how to do a better job of lead gen? Why not come up with a custom GPT and put the hours that it takes to make that happen, so the ChatGPT can speak from your perspective? Why not sit and watch these thousands of videos, just 2 minutes, 30 seconds, to learn what can be done? And then wherever you are, whatever your biggest sales challenge is, that's where you start AI. Go solve that problem. It's like the Japanese proverb. If you have to plant 10 trees, don't dig 10 holes. Plant one tree from start to finish and then move on. Well, master one aspect of AI and then move on.
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend to anybody who's watching this, go on to my channel, look up the podcast with Al Kenical of Kenical Group. I joke that he's old because he's, crossed the half. He's a little older than you. But he has embraced AI. He is doing things, he says, for his kids and his company. And both his kids are in the business and they're using it. And Casey's figured out how to have it, respond to all of her emails. Now she gets back, she has to press send, but she gets to read them first, but they're all done. All the time saved there. I think today with the AI for $20, it's 2 less coffees if you're a coffee drinker, 2 less Red Bulls, it's 2 less of everything. And it's a game changer, right? Simple things. If you have to write an email to a customer, first of all, if you're an expert in something and you use AI, it makes you even better, right? It makes you look better. If you're not an expert, it gives you a good start to being better. And then you could even teach the AI how to talk like you if you like how you talk and write. But I've used it for email to get a point across, because I sit there. I got a little ADHD and a few other issues, but I could sit there and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Where now I'll use the voice and I talk into and I tell it what I'm thinking and what I want to do. And then boom, I'm off to the races because I have my body to start with. And then I fine tune it, and I might use another chat to check that one and then send it off. And I look professional, and you take out the emotion and you can get your point across, right? For leads, crazy things. I had to get a podcast with 3 people, 3 different parts of the world. They all send me back their availability in their local times, and I'm going, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to take out an Excel sheet. I'm going to put the times down. I go, stop, 2025, copy paste all their emails into chat, prompted to tell me what times are common amongst all of them. It comes back to me with the common time, even from their zones, 3 seconds, have it prompted to do the email. Then I prompted again to make it shorter because they're executives who don't read, sent it off. All of that in 8 minutes. It would probably be 6 hours of figuring out the time and the time changes and the day savings, right? Charts, anything. If you're sales people, it'll give you great ideas. It's your friend. Did you know that 50% of the people that use the voice are using it as a companion for conversation?
Did you know that 82% of all statistics are made up on the spot?
Maybe I made that up. No, but
I just made that up. So
that just came back from at the AI conference. And last week I'm in the car with Gemini, my new friend, and I ask a fishing question. No, but this is what happened. I ask a fishing question, and it comes back and it says something, and then it ends it with a question to me. Half hour later, I get to where I'm going, and I'm like, oh my God. Right? But the questions it was asking me, I was like, oh my, those are good questions. So if you're someone who's not great at something, it's a great tool. And we have to talk about it more as a tool, not just as a AI. But you could sit down there if you're on your own and use it to help you.
So Warren, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Here we are, 3/4 of an hour into this interview.
Yeah.
And let's assume somebody is still listening. They've gone this far into the podcast.
All my people listen to all of them, and they listen to it live, even though it's recorded.
Right. And Santa Claus is real. Right.
For you too.
But so what can we say to somebody who's been hanging on this long that's going to be of interest to them?
Well, I think we've let people know that a lot of what we spoke about is the same stuff. The good salespeople have it in them, and they kind of know what to do, and they pick it up, and they need a little bit of help sometimes in direction. But to the other salespeople out there, I'm going to just simply say you have to ask for help. You have to know where you are, and either your sales manager, your boss, call me, call Bill, right? But ask for help. If you don't ask for help, then if you're not going to excel, look for another job. If you're an owner, you better call Bill and me. But you got to look out for your reps to give them the opportunity, give them the runway to make it happen, because you as the owner, you want everyone running the same way as you, doing what needs to be done for you personally, because as an owner, it's all about the profit at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what you say. But after the profit, you want to have a good culture, you want to have a good place, and you want to have great people, and it to be like your second home and everyone else's second home.
Sure.
So it's about asking for help if you don't know. That's what 2025 is, because things are moving rapid speed. Owners are, the good are the good. Others need some help, and even the owners are stuck. Right? It's I don't know. What do you think are the biggest issues that people could get help with easily?
Making contact with people. It's harder than ever. harder than ever. Technology is keeping us apart. The young buyer, I mean, my target market when I was in my 20s were people in their 20s. Now I'm in my 60s. People in my 20s say, sir, they don't want to deal with me and they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to talk. My three daughters are phenomenally outgoing. They hate talking on the phone. I can barely get them. I got two that live in England. I can barely get them on a FaceTime call. So, how do you connect with someone? How do you build the relationship? It's the same. The fundamentals are the same. The medium, the methods are different. So heaven forbid, the worst phone call I get, Warren, is when somebody calls me. It usually comes in late at night and say, "Hey, Bill, listen, I've been reading your stuff for a long time, and I'm sorry to bother you at night, but I just lost my biggest account. I'm 55 years old. I just lost 30-40% of my business. I am in so much trouble because I haven't prospected for years." And this breaks my heart every time. It's like, all right, dude, lie down. I'll cover you with dirt. If you haven't been prospecting, what? that's what Warren would say, not me, of course.
I give him the shovel. Bury myself.
Hit him with a shovel. Boom. Here you go. Let me help you out. But that's a challenge, to keep going if you're already successful. But those calls, making the profitable call, those fundamentals for the veteran sales rep, building that relationship, we have to adjust. It's not the same as it was. For the new sales rep, the big challenges are getting trained, because primarily you're going to get a pat on the back, you're going to get a set of business cards and a go get 'em tiger
out the door.
So rut's a ruck. That's why the sales vault is priced the way it is. So it's no brainer. But I deal with a lot of young salespeople, trying to let them know that what they're going through is normal. Because you think to yourself, everybody else is successful except for me, and and 70% of everybody else suffers from imposter syndrome. Why would anybody listen to Billy Farquharson? Oh my God.
I asked that same question.
Yeah. Why did everybody listen to Bill Farquharson? Yeah.
No, it's I think for the companies, I think the owners, I think it starts with the top. I think it starts always with the ownership and how they lead their company and what they do. If they're not leading it properly, where they're bringing in the salespeople and they're engaging with them and they have tools for them, then they're just bringing them in to set them up to fail, because nobody's taking a job where they don't want to succeed at, right? One company I was talking to, and I'm hoping to have the guy on my podcast, he brings someone in, regardless of what they do, they spend 2 weeks working in just about every department.
Yeah, that's smart.
Right? Every department. Some people have gone on, he said, to become $2 million salespeople. I had one fella actually who started with me on the back of running a 2-color 26-inch press when he was 25. He came from cleaning floors or sweeping, playing with fire hoses. And fast forward, he was a pressman on a 2-color 26-inch, a feeder on a 2029. Then he ran it, then the 40. And then actually left the company because he wanted too much money on the press, came back, was a pressman, and then said, I want to do better. Went into sales, took a cut in pay, and then he was selling within a couple of years, $2 million. But I noticed him, and I was there to support him in every way, right? So I think a lot of it is ownership and knowing who your people are, having the tools for them, and then assisting them and not letting them, you don't give them a life preserver and say, hey, go swimming.
Oh, I was listening to my favorite podcast. It's the #1 business podcast. It's called Acquired. And they do a deep dive, like 3-4 hour podcast research on companies, all IKEA and Sony and Microsoft, these big companies. Well, they did Hermes. And I'd never really thought about it. Never thought about spending $12,000 on a handbag.
I was going to say, you shouldn't tell your wife you're watching that stuff or anybody, right?
But they're 5th generation family. But every single one of them started as a tradesman for the company. They spent 2 years learning how to create and make bags like everybody else. And it's just like, now you've got the respect of the workers and how hard it is. So yeah, it's very, very important, I think, to go through that. Sales reps don't exactly get along with production.
And why not? There's no reason they shouldn't.
I know a lot of production people who have gone into sales saying, how tough can that be?
No,
That's
I just don't understand why everybody doesn't just work together,
yeah,
right? Because if you spend if the owner makes everyone spend a week in every place, then you understand. And
yeah.
even production, a simple job is not so simple, right? If you got the print, the pre-press, the print, the finishing, the embellishing, the folding out the door, that's not 3 days anymore, right?
One of the things you can do if you're a sales rep listening to this and you did not go through that kind of training, then spend an hour out back now. Just go to the production manager and say, listen, I'm going to come back 3 o'clock every Friday afternoon. Put me to work. I want to learn. I want to help. I tell you what, they will. You don't think your jobs are going to get a priority going through that? Do the same thing with customer service. Just go help out and learn what they do. Learn their part of the world. There was a guy that was an Indigo operator named Sean Fitzgerald, and I always credit Sean with this. I was working with him. He was an Indigo operator. Then he goes into sales, and he said, we were talking about the job of sales after a couple of months, and I said, Sean, you've been at it now for a little while, and you came into this with one of those, I can do this. How tough can it be? Describe the job of sales to me.
Ooh, it's tough.
He said, oh, he nailed it. He said, we help our customers find their customers. That's a mic drop. That's it. That's print sales. We help our customers find their customers. Do that. You've got a hell of a career ahead of you.
The other thing I used to do, I forgot to say it before, is when I would go visit a customer, and if it was a manufacturing operation, I would always, always ask them if they would give me a tour of how things are done because I like the YouTube channel, How'd You Make That?
Oh, yeah.
And then, depending on who you're with, they take you through, you're excited, they're excited, right? All of a sudden, you're asking questions, they're answering, you get to the end of the line, and you've now had that extra 20 minutes, half an hour with them. You've seen more, you have more thought, you get to ask questions on how you could potentially help something in the line or at the end. Most people aren't asking.
Right.
They're not showing, I guess, you got to show interest first.
Sure.
So, wow. Anyways, we could go on. We are going to do this again and go on and on and on. I think if you're a salesperson that you should be listening to these calls because if nothing else, you could pick something up that just could sit in your head for 1 second. And even when I go to a trade show, all I'm looking to do is walk away with one thing. If it's two, it's too hard, too heavy to carry. So one message at a time, take it, use it, and make it work. Before we go, any final words? You want to plug the vault one more time?
You know what? It's there for you, and I'm there for you to help. I think my final thought is going to be this: if you don't love what you do, quit. It's one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. My older brother Andy, who's the best salesman I've ever met in my life. Andy worked for a $26 million label company and sold 23 million of the 26 million. He was a stud. And I always looked up to him. It was no doubt what I was going to do with my life, having seen how much fun he was having, Again, I'm going to be 65 in October. I cannot imagine not doing what I'm doing. It is so much fun every day. You can't see this, but I've got a pair of swim trunks on right now.
And I don't want to see them, but yeah.
No, you don't.
Because you're going to the pool after.
These are pretty slick. These are pretty nice. But you earn the right. Yesterday, my granddaughter was over here. She's 11 months old today, as a matter of fact. My grandson's coming this afternoon. He's 3.5. You earn the right to make your time, make your hours. You're solving problems with customers. When a client calls me up and says, Bill, you know what? You probably don't remember me. You helped me years ago, and now I'm crushing it, and I still use the things that you talked about. Exactly. That's like, wow. That validates. That makes it worth it. If you're not having fun, quit. Go find something that you can't wait to do. It's like when I went in 2013, I took my motorcycle from Boston to San Francisco. I stayed with clients at their home. I went to their church. I trained their salespeople. We had breakfast together. I would get on the bike and keep riding. It was 6 weeks, 5,600 miles, had so much fun doing it. I had Bluetooth in my helmet. I could just make calls and receive them. And, you can't, when are you going to do that? When else are you going to do that? So the job of sales, I don't understand why everybody doesn't do it. it's crazy hard. It's like it says at the bottom of my sales rep, if it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great. But if that's not doing it for you, that's fine.
I
Go
want
find something that does.
I want clients who fish because I like to fish with my clients after. And I tell people, when you hire me, I come down for a couple days. I'll bill you the 2 days, but the third day, let's go fishing. But I promise you, on the third day, we'll get more done and talk about more on that boat fishing than we did in 2 days stuck in your office.
I couldn't
Right?
do it. You know what my theory on a boat is? How long do I have to be on this boat?
Well, you haven't fished with me.
No, I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. And I
Yeah.
belong to the Duxbury Yacht Club. We're right on the water. I can't stand it.
Yeah, well, I'm fishing. I'm not sitting there. And then, the other thing is, I'll end it like with this. You said, if you don't love it, get out of it. If you do love it, it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. And then it just falls and it, flows with you. So, and that goes for anything, your job or your hobby, right? Anyways, we're going to end it on that. Bill, so grateful and thank you to have you come on and share your wealth of experience. And we'll wish you a happy 65th early in case we don't speak to you before then. Just think you're about to get a whole new set of discounts.
It's just the guy in the mirror is going to be 65.
Yeah, but it's what's in here. And last thing I'm going to say is, because I try to do this, hang around your kids. Talk to them, hang around with some of their friends, even start to hear the lingo, hear what they're doing, hear what they're saying. The old adage of what our parents used to say to us, we can't say the same things back. It's a new world, right? And if you know it, and then you can pick up a little bit of the lingo and you use it, oh my God, they'll welcome you in even quicker. Everybody, thank you for listening. Anyone who wants to talk print, reach out to me. We'll talk about anything print. You know me, I love print. Thanks for stopping in, and please subscribe at any of the places where the podcast is shown: Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, just to name a few. See you in the next episode. Thanks, Mr. Bill.
Warren. Thanks, Warren.